Sometimes things are terrifying all around outside. Wildfires, hurricanes, pandemic, genocide. Is this the apocalypse? Will it be the end? How can we all save ourselves if we can't all be friends?
1, 2, 3.
So come on in to a place that is fun. I'll be your friend and you can be mine. The world is a stream of constant bullshit, but that doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of good shit. You start with the mean and we can make something different. Let's build a world that is good. This is a show for adults. Hello, friends. Welcome to the new and, let's call it improved Good World, the new and different Good World. A lot of time has passed since the last time we interacted. I moved. Susie and I both moved. We were in Grass Valley. Now we live in Sacramento. It's a different place. I got very caught up in taking time to set up this new environment where I'm recording. It's a little shed behind our house. Then I got delayed by my own procrastination and my tendency to fixate on a bunch of random things. Did I need Ethernet cables running from the router inside the house down through the floor, under the house, into some conduit in the backyard, out along the backyard, and then in through the wall into the shed? No, I didn't need that, but my brain decided it was a thing I could figure out how to do, and so instead of recording, that's one of the things I did across the last 10 months, I think it's been. So hi, welcome back. It's wonderful to have you. We're gonna figure some things out. Also, I'm a little out of practice, obviously, and we need to find a new routine because I no longer have the lovely Grass Valley Dog Park to take Charlie to anymore. He's right out there. He's okay about that. He likes the new dog park also, and it's closer to the house, but he does miss his friends up there. So what I was just trying to do, and what I hope will be part of this program in the future. So out there you can see that's our backyard. And I was just out there. I was doing some slow walking meditation, which is a practice I learned about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and I really like it. It's really just you walk very, very slowly. And with each breath, hang on, I'm just gonna put on some shoes here because you can't see me. Where did I go? Here I am. Because the doesn't really matter, but the floor here, I got a floor mat, and so my bare feet on the floor mat are making kind of a gross sticky sound. So now I have shoes so that if I move back and forth, it sounds at least a little more normal. So slow walking meditation is a practice I learned about a year and a half ago, and the idea is to really just focus on every step, and so following in the tradition of the great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who died a week and a half ago. You may have heard about it on the news or read it somewhere. Turns out a lot more people than I realized knew who he was. I had never heard of him until a couple of years ago, but also a lot of people didn't. But he was pretty amazing and super influential. And since I have come across his works, his writings and his teachings, has had a big influence on me. But so with the slow walking meditation, you really, the mantra you repeat in your head is, I have arrived, I am home. And so you do that with each step. Breathing in, I have arrived. Breathing out, I am home. But you do it slowly. Breathing in, I have arrived. Breathing out, I am home. And the idea is really to put your mindful energy into each step. And it's hard. It's really hard to do, and especially in a cultural environment where we're so conditioned to respond to everything really quickly and to not have a moment alone to our thoughts and alone to ourselves. It's hard, but it's really wonderful practice, and especially those of you who are in places that are getting snowed on probably hate me right now for being outside like this. It's like in the 60s here in Sacramento. But on a nice February day, it's different. I grew up in the Northeast. This is not what I am used to either, but it is lovely. On a nice February day, it's a really, really lovely way to experience some nature. Um, what else can I fill you in on? It was a little hectic getting set up today because I had to. My camera connection didn't work, but I really wanted to start recording because boy have I been procrastinating. Um, yeah, there's something about I don't know. I think back to my youth and my time as an actor, and I spent a lot of time performing other people's words, right, and other people's music. When you're acting, you don't have to you don't have to choose what to say. It's written for you. You don't have to choose where to stand. The director tells you where to stand. You're just kind of a conduit. And also, I did a lot of singing, and so that was. But also, I performed other people's songs, and I wrote some music, but I never. I very, very rarely played it for anyone because I was super insecure about it. And so maybe at some point, we'll share some of that. But also the theme song. Hey, that's new. I wrote that. That that took a year and a half for that minute. The second 30 seconds, the sort of second half of it, I hired the brilliant animator Deborah Pinkney to do it. She did that part a while ago. I couldn't figure out what to do with the first part. Finally figured out what I wanted to do. Then I had to teach myself Adobe After Effects. Took a while. So there you go. A minute of video content took me a year and a half. But here we are. We have a show. It's really, it actually feels really nice to be here recording. So what I was starting to say though is that because I spent so much time in my in sort of the world of my performance using other people's words, right? If in a play I was using other people's words. I also did a lot of improv comedy, but that no one really expects you to say anything meaningful. And so, if you do a stupid poop joke, no one's going to be like, well, I don't know, he did a stupid poop joke during that second scene. Like it's not how improv works. But there is something about putting putting your own thoughts out there into the world, onto the internet, and we all know the internet is a really friendly critic. The internet loves when people say things. So here I am saying things from my heart, trying to do that. And it's been scary, so I've put it off. But here I am, and now that I'm doing it, it does actually feel a little good. So let's take this moment to sort of talk about what I'm trying to do here, because I think that's important. So one of the things that I've done just in as part of my life changes across the last better part of a year is I applied to, I think I was thinking about it when I was last recording, but I applied to an online interfaith seminary. And seminary is a strange thing to apply to and to attend if you are someone who's never really believed in God, at least not in sort of the standard human conceptions of God. For most of my life, I was an atheist, and now I've moved to kind of agnostic. I actually I am one of those people who thinks that like probably we're just all living in a giant computer simulation. But that's okay, and that still leaves a lot of room for us to find connection with each other, and it still leaves us a lot of room to make something better that we can do together through sharing and listening. So that's sort of how I'm approaching my eventual ordination as an interfaith reverend. That's going to be a thing. My Holocaust survivor grandparents would have they would have been okay with it. They would have thought it was weird if I had just gone full on Christian or something else. But I think interfaith, including the Jewish background, they probably would have been okay with. They were pretty compassionate people. So that's sort of a larger background. But I also so I in thinking about how I have arrived at this sort of spiritual philosophy that I have been developing for myself, and it's still a work in progress. And we're going to figure things out across the course of however long I do this show. And hopefully, I won't say too many things that I later regret, but I'm sure there will be things that I say that I change my mind about because I'm human, so are you. We all are just guessing all of the time. That's that's a core part of my philosophy is that all of us are humans who are just guessing all the time and working with really incomplete information. Hey, this is new also. That sound means we're going to take a quick break. I'm trying to keep these episodes shorter. We'll be right back. Please like and subscribe. 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 Hi, welcome back. That was kind of fun, right? So it was, if you noticed, it was different creatures singing like and subscribe from before because I wrote some code that will take the videos that I recorded and take them through different filters and then arbitrarily combine them. So that's just all computer now. I made a thing to make that a thing I don't have to do by hand. Isn't automation great? So spirituality. Also, I realized I didn't finish what I was saying earlier. ADHD brain is tricky about the slow walking meditation, but the plan and what I was trying to do, except my camera didn't handle it quite right. The plan is to record myself doing some walking meditation out there, and then sort of come right here. It's a nice moment for me to gather my thoughts. But I also know that in previous videos when I included a meditation, not everyone wants 10 minutes of dead air in the middle of their video. So now it's just going to appear sort of sped up hyperspeed. You know, you'll see me appear to walk very fast, but in fact I'll be walking very, very slowly. Anyway, spirituality. If I had to present an overall arc and theme for what I'm trying to do here, I think it's that I'm trying to share how I have arrived at a form of spirituality that works for me through learning social psychology and probability theory. Like, those are really the two big things that brought me to where I am spiritually, which is not how these things normally work. And my background, my training, which is something I haven't necessarily talked about a lot on here. I used to be a data scientist. I don't remember if I ever talked about that. I used to be a data scientist. And I can even, let's put it up on the screen real quick. In 2012, I was in the Obama campaign, the analytics cave, which was just a room. It was a converted conference room with no windows, so we called it the cave. And we got a lot of press for being very, very fancy and very innovative. And look, some of the things that were going on in there were really, really cool. And on a team of 55 people, I think it was, I was not in the top 50 in terms of intelligence, certainly, but I was smart enough to be in the room. So that was a fun experience. But I have learned a lot about data science over the years. I've learned a lot about probability, and we'll get into a lot more of the details here, but a thing that I found really frustrating through the time that I worked in polling, which is what my career was most recently, is that people think, if we say 42% of respondents support this thing with a margin of error of 3, everyone wants to focus on that 42%. But the margin of error of 3 is actually the really important part. What the math is telling you isn't 42 is probably right. It's telling you it's probably wrong, but like, here's a range that you can kind of guess is maybe right. And that's what the math is about. And again, we don't need to go into the specifics of it right now, but understanding that and understanding randomness and the way that everything around us is driven by randomness has been a really powerful thing for me. And it's a really useful way of understanding the world. It has really opened my eyes. So that's one of the things I really want to share in here. The social psychology part of it, I took an undergrad course at Wesleyan with Scott Plous. Also, sorry everyone who hates Wesleyan. Also, yeah, I went to private university. I grew up with a lot of privilege. Here's my white male cisgender heterosexual beard face with money that paid tuition. Thanks, Dad. He probably heard that because he watches this or listens. I'm not sure. Anyway, my Wesleyan junior year, maybe, course. Well, I took 5 years to graduate. That's a whole nother thing. Social psychology. You can actually go, I think it's on Coursera. I'll put a link down there. But Scott Plous, great professor, taught social psychology at Wesleyan and really opened my eyes to a lot of the ways. The thing that was really interesting to me about social psychology is is the just the foundational concept of cognitive bias. And cognitive bias is just anything that your brain is doing as a shortcut to get around having to think really hard or having to work really hard, or something our brain really doesn't like doing, but thinking about maybe we did something wrong. That's something our brains very much avoid. Um, so, just as an example, there's something in social psychology called the fundamental attribution error. And the fundamental attribution error is also, boy, jargon. I, it's really unfortunate that there are these really, really useful, important concepts, and academics just give them jargon that is really useful if you are an academic, but makes it much, much harder to understand if you're not. It's a lot more opaque from the outside. But the idea of the fundamental attribution error is, let's say, here's the me version of the error, right? Let's say I I don't know. Let's say I invest my money in something, and let's say I'm wrong about. This is not even a great example. We're just going to keep going with it though, because I'm recording. Um, but let's say it turns out to be a bad investment. Um, let's say I got some bad information, right? So I made the bad investment. Let's say I'm investing someone else's money. So in my view, I made the bad investment because I got bad information. There are external circumstances going on. From the perspective of the person whose money I lost, I made the investment because or I made the bad investment because I'm bad at investing. Oh, I'm generally pretty good at analogies, but clearly I'm out of practice. Um, but basically, the fundamental attribution error is the idea that when we make a mistake, we think about the external circumstances that attributed it, or that contributed to it, are attributable. What a words. English, what a language. Um, when someone else makes a mistake, we think it's something to do with them internally. And this is something all of us do. And it's not even necessarily we do it 100% of the time, but if someone else is messing up, we are much more likely to think that there's something wrong with them. If we mess up, we are much more likely to see the bigger picture, see the context, and understand what went into it. And so that's just one example. There's a lot in the world of social psychology, but things like this are baked into our brains. And when we look at our larger society, which is, I don't know if you've noticed, it's kind of broken out there. No one is happy. Even the people who claim they're happy are mostly miserable. There's a lot of anger, and I'm not saying the anger is unwarranted. I think the anger is understandable because the world treats us pretty poorly for the most part. It treats me generally pretty well, and still, it's not great. It's it's even being told you're better than another person, like it's not as bad as being told you're worse than another person, but it still messes you up because like no, I'm not better. I'm just different than another person. I'm not better. There's no objective measure of humanness. Uh, but I digress as I so often do. Um, all of the nonsense that we're dealing with collectively right now, I see as the sum total, the grand aggregation of everybody's cognitive bias, particularly the people who have the power to make decisions, who deal with a kind of bias that comes from being put in a position of power, which is that you think you got there because of your own greatness. Oh, that's the flip side of the fundamental attribution error. When you do something really good, you think it's because you're great, but other people think it's because of the context. And for the most part, actually, the context, the environment in which you're operating, it's not 100% of the thing that determines what you do, but it is a really, really big factor. And so for someone like me, I'm able to do things like quit my job, move across the country, and go to seminary. and launch a YouTube show from my backyard because I was born into a position that gave me so many opportunities all along the way. And sure, some of those opportunities I seized, but you can't separate those two things, and that's okay. But when we have a system that is set up by people who have been benefited by the system, and the people who the system benefits are in charge of maintaining it, it is inherently, because of cognitive bias, going to leave behind a whole lot of people who the system isn't serving. And so we are in a world where the system is serving the people who it has been serving for a long time. That sound means it's time to wrap up, so I'm gonna wrap up. Um, so yes, our so the whole system becomes self-perpetuating, right? Because the people who it benefits think that it benefited them because of what they did, and don't see the context of what the world provided them, and don't realize that if we provided those same opportunities to other people, uh, that maybe they could do great things also, and that actually human potential is all around us. And when we dismiss other people as not having potential, we are missing an enormous opportunity for everyone to benefit, right? If you, let's say you invent a cure for cancer, I benefit. But if you are born into poverty and you get a crappy education and uh, gonna touch a nerve here, but maybe you're black in America, and so you get hassled by teachers and principals and police and whoever else is representing the system and is treating you with skepticism. Maybe you won't be able to go on to create that cure for cancer because there are too many barriers. Um, there's, don't you love just opening up the can of worms that is racism in America at the very last minute of this show? You're welcome. Is that a cliffhanger? Let's call that a cliffhanger. It's been really lovely having you. I'm really glad to be back. I hope you'll come back. Thanks. See you soon.